as he starts the YouTube feed and everything starts going out. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to call this meeting of the Parks and Shade Tree Commission to order. It's November 28th, 2022, and we'll start with a roll call. And we have two new members today, so would you like to start?
Sure. Carolyn Diefendorfer, present.
Carolyn, pardon me, Carolyn, oh, I guess we have to do roll call first.
Yep.
Okay.
Renee Simonton.
And I'm Laura Ritter.
And I'm Glenn Mandalis, the city attorney.
And we are expecting one more member, Katie Downs, to arrive shortly. I thought we'd take a moment, because we have two new members today, to let them introduce themselves briefly, just to, you know, give us a little bit of your history and why you were on this committee.
Hi, Carolyn Diefendorfer, moved full-time to the city a little over 2 years ago. And I think I'm on it because I took a real interest in the tree code and the rewrite that is occurring. So, thank you.
Renee Simonton. In my previous employment, I was required to give a number of hours for service, and I chose the Delaware Center for Horticulture. So I have been involved with trees and horticulture probably for 15 years.
Well, thank you. Okay, then we move on to correspondence.
Correspondence, typically though, since this correspondence is related to the applications, we'll wait till the applications to actually introduce those pieces of correspondence.
I was wondering about that.
Yep.
We're supposed to approve the minutes, but they weren't even here for the minutes. How does that
They were not
work?
here, and are the minutes actually available? It says meetings held August 22nd, 2022, but I don't see them linked in here. We should probably wait until Katie's here to actually approve. Oh, there's Katie. So we can approve them based upon the two of you, or
Okay.
there's something called the rule of necessities. You don't have to have a quorum to actually approve them when the other members have slid off. So you and Katie can approve those minutes if you want to. Good morning. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Greg.
So Katie, as you're taking your seat, there's meeting minutes of August 22nd, 22. Have you received the minutes to review them
I
yet?
couldn't find them, but
Okay, so let's hold off on those till next
Okay.
month, and we'll take them then.
well, seeing that there's no old business, we'll move on to new business. And
I don't know if there's anything here. Is there an agenda printout for the members? Anything that staff put together? No, I don't see them. If you want them, we can get somebody downstairs to.
Do you want me to go get a copy made? I have everything.
No, I've got my
Okay.
iPad. I
Okay.
can
Okay.
pull it all up.
Okay.
should I ask if there's any reason to go out of order, or do?
You can, if anybody has any appointments they need to get to, if you do.
Okay, before we start, is there any, does anyone have a reason that we should go out of order that's on the agenda, starting with the appeal? Okay, hearing none, we will go ahead to the first order under new business, which is the appeal hearing. Number 0922-05, requested by James and Karen Hutchison.
The following is the report of the city arborist with regard to the above referenced appeal that is to be heard before the commission on Monday, November 28th, 2022. Oop, hold on. Might have actually gotten these out of order myself.
It must be a Monday morning after a holiday.
Exactly.
Everything's running.
I think I actually put one accidental sentence in there because I was copying and pasting. So if you don't mind, I'll read what it should be, but I'll start over. The following is a report of the city arborist with regard to the above referenced appeal that is to be heard before the commission on Monday, November 28th, 2022. On July 23rd, 2021, a completed tree permit application was submitted to Building and Licensing related to the construction of a new home. The tree permit application requested the removal of 3 trees, 15-inch crepe myrtle, 15-inch zelkova, and a 6-inch Bradford pear. The approval of the tree plan and issuance of the tree permit is required for the new home construction permits to be issued. The tree code requires applicants to make an effort to preserve trees on their lot as stated in 253-26F. Whether or not the density requirements of subsection A of this section are applicable to a lot, all reasonable efforts must be made to save protected trees on a lot. Reasonable efforts shall include, but not be limited to, alteration of building design, alternate location of building, parking area, water retention, or drainage infrastructure, or relocation of utilities. As such, the city requested that the contractor reroute the side yard walkway to retain the zelkova tree. The contractor agreed, and the new home construction tree permits were issued shortly thereafter. More recently, a new tree permit application was submitted to remove the same zelkova tree that had previously been marked for preservation. The tree permit was denied under 253-26 above and 253-30A to A7. However, a tree removal permit shall not be granted where the applicant has failed to design and locate the proposed improvements, demolition, or subdivision so as to minimize the removal of trees consistent with the permitted use of the lot, and shall be granted only after full consideration of alternatives under 253-35 of this article. If the commission allows this tree to be removed, it will have to be replaced with a new tree on the property in order to meet minimum density requirements. As per 253-36C, the commission has the authority to decide this appeal. The Park and Shade Tree Commission shall have the authority to hear and decide appeals where it is alleged that there is any error in any decision made by the building inspector on an application for a tree removal permit or land clearing permit. In exercising its authority, the Park and Shade Tree Commission may reverse or affirm wholly or in part, or may modify the building inspector's decision. Done.
That's the city arborist report, so you can ask questions of the arborist now, or you can wait till Mr. Meredith gives his presentation. Either's fine.
I don't have any right now.
Are you representing the,
You guys are good?
Can you say your name one more time, Mr. Meredith, just so it gets on the recording?
Yes. I'm Jeff Meredith, Sussex Tree, certified arborist. I've looked at the trees. I've actually feel that the root structure is a problem on these trees. And I think right now, Josh, we're only taking what, one tree down, or we're taking just the one zelkova that's in the sidewalk, between the sidewalk and, or near the sidewalk? Two in the sidewalk, but we're only taking one down or both? Both, okay, sorry.
Let me interrupt, because this is about the appeal. So
Okay.
This is about the one zelkova
Hey,
on the
Liz,
private.
why don't you sit up here so that it's picking up
Yeah.
on the recording? Thank you.
So, when you're ready.
Yeah, so we kept the street tree separate, so it's 2 separate cases.
Right, so members understand there's one tree that's on private property. That's the 14-inch zelkova, which is what we're talking about now. Then there's 2 trees that are street trees. That'll be a separate case that we'll take after this
Yes.
one's heard.
Right, okay. So it's basically just the one tree,
Just the one on private
one
property. right?
zelkova that's on private property, sorry. It's my opinion that tree just between it's before the sidewalk and the front yard, and I'm sure the committee members went and looked at that tree and saw how high that tree is as far as root structure. I just feel it should go and another tree be planted in about the same area. Actually, we have a planting plan in place to remove that tree and put other trees in. So that's pretty much all I have to say about it, you know. And I thank you.
may I ask if there's any other evidence involved in this appeal? Do you have, like, it's not really your job, but the contractor was told to reroute that walkway. Is there any other evidence of an attempt to reroute the walkway? I mean, there is a walkway there now.
There is in front of the tree, yes. There
My
you
name
go,
is Josh
Josh.
Workman. I'm the project manager for Rehoboth Property Development. When we started this whole process in the beginning, before we broke ground, we told Liz that we would try to work with the tree on site, try to save the tree, because we try to save trees as much as possible. But how everything planned out from the physical plans to a physical house, it's not going to be able to be worked around because the root ball of the tree is right there at the bottom of the front steps. So we were going to try to work around it with a walkway to go around it, but to where our last height of our riser is, the root ball of the actual tree is just so much higher than where our final grade is going to be. And it's so much closer to the last tread of our front step. So there's really nothing that we can do on site to work around that tree like we had planned for it.
Okay, thank you.
So other questions for either the city arborist or any of the applicant's team? Oh, sure.
Yeah. So now we've had the city arborist and the applicant, so if someone from the,
He's the owner, he's the owner.
Oh,
so he's
you're
part
the
of
owner.
He's
Oh,
part of
okay.
the applicant team as well, so.
Okay,
Mr.
yes.
Eck? Right.
Okay, okay, good. It's always helpful to us when the owner actually comes and tells us what's going on, because it gives us a much better idea of what your thinking is.
I have some additional handouts. Is it okay if I give them to you?
Fine. Mhm.
Thanks. Whoa. Holy smokes. I can't see any of this.
Good morning, and thanks for inviting me. I'm the property owner at 127 Rodney Street, James Hutchison. My wife, Karen, couldn't be here today. Apologize for that. The bigger packet that I gave you is fronted by we have tried very hard in the 20 years that we've owned the property to work with these trees. And all you got to really do is kind of look at the bottom line number there. We've probably spent, and this I feel is probably like doesn't represent everything that we've spent on it, but we think we spent around $35,000 on the different damage that has been done. And you'll see it broken down between the sidewalks and curbs, some electrical and cable TV issues, and the water and sewer utilities. I don't think it's been mentioned today, but in 2020, that tree was approved to be removed. And we were working with our builder at that time on the plans for the new house, and we all collectively made a decision, and possibly that was not the right decision to make, to not go forward with the removal, even though we did have approval on it at that time, because we wanted to try to see what we could do with the new construction of the house. So the first page actually shows pictures that were in the packet in 2020 that was approved. And you can see, these aren't the greatest pictures, and I have some better ones, but you can see some of the damage. The damage has gotten considerably worse in the last 2 years. If you'll go to the next page after that, you'll see in 2020 some photos that were taken on, I think, the third time that we had to repair the sewer lines that were between the house and the street. There was a comment that was made in one of the packets, and I'm, with working on this for over 2 years, I can't remember who said what when, but it was said that, the line is cast iron. It's not surprising in a 60-year-old cast iron line that there's root intrusion. The cast iron line was removed like 10 years ago. It's all PVC, and you can see the pictures of the PVC lines in there, and they're full of roots. So that doesn't really seem to be what the issue is right now. I'm not sure how the PVC lines that were replaced got back full of roots again, but they are. There's then a picture that says 2012 photo, and if you look at the area that's clouded and circled, you'll see the new sidewalk that was, one of the new sidewalks that was put in that's still in actually pretty good condition in 2012. All the damage in the next photos that are current has taken place since the time that we replaced the sidewalk then. That in 2012 was the second time we had replaced the sidewalks due to the damage. We've taken out the sidewalks again and getting ready to replace them again with the new construction. That will be the third time that the sidewalks will have been replaced due to the damage caused by the trees. If you go on beyond that, you can see a picture of just a small amount of the roots that had to be removed just from, it really wasn't like a major effort to get roots out of the way, but you can see that pile of roots is probably 4 to 5 feet tall and probably 10 feet in diameter, and that's all just roots that were, miscellaneous roots that were removed from the construction. I think the next photo, which is taken along Bayard, is probably the most revealing. You can see the curb in that picture, and you can see the top of the roots. The curb height at the top is approximately the same height as what the sidewalk should be when it's finished. And you can see the roots of the tree next to it is probably 8 to 12 inches taller than the height of the curb. Now, this is one of the trees that's in the, this is one of the city trees. So I'll apologize for taking this out of order, but the situation with the trees on the property is identical to this. The tops of the roots are 8 to 12 inches estimated higher than what the finished grade of either the yard or the sidewalks would be. So it's not so much an issue of rerouting the sidewalk, just, from a plan view aspect of trying to go around the tree. The problem is more of an elevation problem than a plan problem, because the height of the root ball is just so much higher, and I think that's what Jeff mentioned when he spoke. I won't go through the rest of the pictures in detail because they're pretty much the same. The last ones show the sidewalks. Some of that sidewalk damage is in fact, a large part of it is from the tree that's on our property, the appeal tree, and not the city tree that's in the curb. So that's the packet of information that kind of gives you the physical. I think you asked if there's some physical, evidence there, and that would be what I would point out. I do have my landscape designer here, and maybe I'll wait unless you have a question about the actual landscaping plan, and she can speak if you have any questions about that. But we really want the trees on our lot to be great trees. We're not trying to just clean sweep trees. This is going to be a house that I just retired. We're moving here. We're not trying to flip a house. We're not trying to, just clear everything out and build a house that has nothing to do. This is a sentimental piece of property that we've owned a long time. It's going to be our permanent residence, and I guess until we die. So we're trying to do the right thing with what we've asked for. Any questions for me? Okay, thank you.
I do have a question.
Oh, thank you.
I think that in our packet, there is a letter, an email from Liz to Dave McCarthy, who was, I guess, the overall builder, reasserting that tree was to remain. And he said he agreed that yes, it was to remain. And on that basis, she then said that you don't need another building permit, building permit. So I don't understand really how we got to this point, because you agreed not to remove the tree. That was part of the building permit.
It could be my error, but I did not see that communication. And if I had seen that communication, I certainly would have raised the flag at that time. That's, it is what it is. It was my builder, and he was representing me. I think that Dave wanted to try extremely hard to work as hard as he could with the city and follow the codes and regulations could be followed. And I just don't think at the time that email was exchanged, that he had a full understanding of the difficulty it was going to be in trying to work with the location and physical nature of the routes as they were.
Yeah, we had told Liz that we were going to work with it, but when it came to our blueprints to what we've built on site, it's not come to fruition. It's not working out the way we had planned it. The tree is just a little too close to our front step, and there's really no feasible way to work around the actual root ball of the tree. The root ball is so massive, it's basically taking up the whole front step.
And I will just restate, that tree had been approved for removal in 2020.
Okay, but that's not something that's before us today.
I understand.
We can't go by,
I
because we don't know the circumstances then and all that. We can only go by, you know, the record that we have before, because this is an appeal, and we have to go by legal procedures. And that's what the evidence that we have here today. I do appreciate the extra information that you provided this morning. It's enlightening to understand the problem better.
I actually think it is still germane to the appeal. I mean, I have to appeal for a reason, and the reasons I'm giving you is that the tree was approved one other time to be removed, and then the reasons why it was approved at that time are the same as the reasons now. The height of the roots and the damage that it had been causing were the same in 2020 as they are now. So I understand what you're saying, but I'm not sure I completely agree with it, though.
And us as a builder, we were just trying to work with the tree, tried to save the tree, but it's not, we're not able to do that. And from our blueprints and drawings and everything, we plan to save the tree, but when it comes to being built on site, it's just, we can't. So that's all I got to say.
I think at the time that the communication was had, that there just wasn't a knowledge that it was going to be impossible to work around the roots the way we understand now.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else wish to make a comment? When did we read the correspondence?
We can put that in a moment. You've already asked if the public wants to speak, so we can reference the correspondence at this point. Let me find it.
You can speak about the mediation plan if you'd like. Now.
I think it's worth hearing what they would propose.
Yes.
My name is Rebecca Snow with Bellaterra Landscapes, and we are going to be proposing the remediation plan. What we propose is to remove the non-native Zelkova and the non-native crepe myrtle and the non-native Bradford pear, and replace those with all native species that are more appropriate for the property, that are not going to be in a location that are going to cause the same amount of damage. So the trees that we proposed have smaller, shorter canopies, not going to conflict with the power lines anywhere near as much as they are now. And we've also proposed to relocate the tree away from that sidewalk so that it's not going to lift the sidewalk any further. So we've got the same amount of caliper to be replaced is equivalent to the amount that we're proposing to remove. So we are able to fit all of those trees on the property.
Which of these trees is new trees?
You'll see on the plan, there's a label for cornice, which is dogwood. There's a label for redbud, which is cercis, and there's also labels for the tulip poplars alongside the driveway. That's the proposed tree remediation plan.
Can you go through this one more time? Which are the proposed?
Sure. The Liriodendron, which is alongside the driveway, is part of this remediation plan, as well as the cornice.
Is that, on the one along the driveway, is that what's labeled as 8
Is it-
tulip trees?
Yes.
Okay. 8 tulip
8
trees.
tulip
up
trees.
top. Mm-hmm.
1 dogwood and 1 redbud.
Okay, so the 8 tulip at the top, those are proposed. There's an existing Zelkova. The next one down is 1 flowering dogwood that is proposed. Right?
That's
Correct.
The dogwood is not existing?
Not existing.
Okay.
It's proposed.
And then all the way at the bottom, one white eastern redwood
Yes.
is proposed?
So those 10 trees are equivalent in caliper to the 3 trees that are proposed to be removed, including that Zelkova that is being appealed right now.
Liz, have you seen this plan?
No, I've not seen any of this, but they wouldn't be required. I can't speak for the street trees because that's part of the other case, but the private property trees, they would only be required to, I think, plant one additional, so. And that's, you know, if the commission approves the tree removal, then that would just come to me and it wouldn't need the commission's approval.
So if these plantings were made, it would exceed what would be required if.
Yeah, I would have no authority to require all these plantings. I'm assuming they're slender tulips, but I would have no authority to require any more than one tree on the one new tree, so a total of 3.
Would these proposed trees provide any shade over the sidewalk like the current trees do?
Let me think about this. 10. Depending on the angle of the sun, maybe the proposed on private property will stay away from the street tree. No, it wouldn't have. It might hit the sidewalk. It could probably be 20 feet wide, depending on what cultivar they select. And the porch is 10 feet from the sidewalk. So it'll probably just about reach the sidewalk at maturity, maybe a foot or 2 over.
There is an existing Zelkova next to the driveway that currently conflicts with the canopy of the Zelkova that we're proposing to remove. So we do want to keep that in mind, that we need to allow enough room for the remaining trees to be successful, so we don't want to crowd in new trees next to a tree that's already there, which is one of the reasons why we proposed to plant them where we did, in addition to the proposed plan for replacement of the trees on city property, which needs to be taken into account as well at some point, because if those proposed trees that we plant go in, it would be in conflict with this tree as well that would stay.
Wait, I didn't understand that at all.
So it's been discussed a few times that there's going to be proposal to remove the trees on city property as well for the same reason that we're proposing to remove this Zelkova. And there is a proposed remediation plan for those trees on this drawing as well. So if that is approved, the trees that we're proposing on city property would conflict with the replacement tree on private property. The location of the proposed trees. So there will be proposed shade over the sidewalks with the city tree replacement. But it would be this property is pretty small and there's not a lot of places to put trees. So we have to think about both city property and private property when we're proposing these plans,
Okay, I got you.
so that there's not canopy conflict. And I will also build on what Josh has said, what Jeff has said, and what our homeowner has said. The original plan to leave the tree in place was done prior to excavation, and obviously we can't predict what we're going to find underground. And what they found underground was a lot of intrusive root structure that has invaded their pipes, was in the way of their propane tank, and that obviously we can't predict what we're going to find once they start excavation, so that's the reason for this appeal.
Does anyone on the committee have questions?
I do. So where in here, the sewer, is it coming in the same spot off of Rodney?
Sewer's not coming in the same spot. We moved it location.
Maybe come up to a mic. I'm sorry, there's people could be watching out in the Ethernet and.
We did not bring in the sewer in the same location it was on the existing house just for this reason. We moved it closer to the Bayard side of the house, just to keep it away from any other future issues. Now, the one Zachovia that's not on this plan that's by the driveway currently, all of our GeoWells, we ended up having to move 2 GeoWells because of that root ball structure of that tree. But I know that tree's not part of this hearing, but I just want to let you know, we've already kind of worked around our mechanicals to where there's not going to be another issue. But in the future, so that's all I gotta say.
Okay, and you mentioned a propane tank. Is there a buried propane tank
Correct.
on the, where's that?
That is by the driveway, Zacovia.
Oh, okay, okay.
The root structure of both of those trees, it was in the area in which that excavation took place. So, both of them are a challenge. This one is much more of a challenge because of the proximity to the city sidewalk and the lifting of the sidewalk and the safety issues that have ensued because of that. And as the homeowner stated, they have already replaced the sidewalk twice there, and will continue to have to do so because it's currently a major safety issue for that area. It's not handicap accessible right now because of the lift on the sidewalk.
Well, and that sidewalk's gone right now, the one along Rodney.
Yeah, it got
It-
smashed during construction, so they pulled it out because we got
Yes.
complaints.
Yeah, it was, well, it was very, yes, it was very damaged.
Yeah.
All right, and I do have I know you're saying that the permit, that the approval in 2020 isn't really relevant, but I do have a question for Liz. Was that something you approved, or was it something the commission approved?
There's a mistake because there was not an issued permit in our records.
Okay,
So I don't really know.
okay.
Haven't turned on?
I don't know if it's been turned on.
Thank you, Liz.
So removal of the tree was approved. The permit wasn't issued because we didn't prepare the plan and submit the permit, and that was because, and I apologized for that already. I probably should have gone ahead
Right,
with
no,
that.
that's okay.
But we were talking about tearing the house down at that point.
Right,
And that's so, the approval was given to submit the remediation plan, and then the actual permit to take the tree would be out. But approval was given to go ahead with that.
Okay.
I think I'm saying that right?
So it came to the commission because of sewer issues, and the commission wanted more information, and that before finalizing everything, and that was never provided. So it wasn't really approved, it wasn't really disapproved, it wasn't issued, it just, they never, the contractor at the time, not here today, never got back to us, so it just kind of fell off. I
yeah,
think
okay.
the city secretary and I both attempted to contact the contractor a couple of times, and so we figured it was, and then now it makes
And then
sense that
issue,
they were
right.
thinking about building a new house and demolishing. Why go through that? Because they didn't know what the future held. So
right, okay.
I do believe I have solved some communication that said it was approved, submit the final plan, and you can go.
Right, right. Okay. I do have one other question. I don't know if it's really, the fact that there are the two Zelkova there sort of across from each other.
where? Sorry, on the property.
Well, on the property, the one on
Okay.
the private property and then the street tree across.
Oh, okay.
Do you have a feel for how much of the issue was caused by which tree? Which is probably next to impossible to tell.
I think we're just, I mean, if you ripped open the sidewalk and looked at it now, you might be able to look under the gravel and
Right, I mean,
see what
there's-
roots are coming
Yeah, I mean, there's
from where.
clearly a root that's above,
Yeah.
sort of above where you would grade, I think, for the sidewalk that's
Mm-hmm.
visible.
I mean, listen, we deal with this.
I know.
Think about how
Yep.
many miles of sidewalks we
Oh, I
maintain
know,
on the
I
city.
know.
So it's a pretty
Mm-hmm.
standard thing for us. Generally in the city thing, if the lift can be ground out through the company, which I believe is below an inch, then we grind it out. It comes with a warranty. And if it's above an inch, then the company will tell us it has to be replaced, which is then subbed out to a concrete sidewalk repair. So that if it's we're getting off the
Right.
public property, but that's kind of our MO that we work with Public Works Department.
Okay.
Speak to that? I saw his hand go up, so
Mm-hmm.
I'll make sure the record is clear and everybody gets a chance to put on the record whatever they want.
So I'm not an arborist, but the damage to the sidewalks appears to be equally caused by the tree on private property and the tree on city property.
Okay.
There are actually 3 Zelkovas in that area rather than 2. 1 is on city property and 2 are on the private property. We're only proposing to remove 1 from the private property as of right now, but they're all 3 very close together in that area. So there is a lot of canopy conflict, and the roots are all entangled together, so it is very difficult to tell which one it's coming from exactly.
Right.
Okay, has everyone who wishes to speak been heard? Okay, would anyone on the committee like to make a comment?
I'll tell you what I'm struggling, Madam Chair, I'm struggling with the fact that we have these bifurcated into 2 separate things
am
because
too.
they're so related, and the proposal that they've made kind of
It covers both.
covers both.
Exactly.
So I'm wondering if you want to go ahead and take comment on the street trees
Yes.
and then maybe consider motions after you've heard everything that wants to come in. It just seems that they're so related that if there's anything else anybody wants to say about the street
I
trees.
agree. I agree.
Okay, is there a motion to do that?
So why don't, I don't think you need to make a motion on that. If you as chair have the discretion to say we're going to proceed that way.
Okay, it sounds like everyone's in agreement. Is anyone in the public in disagreement? Okay, why don't we then proceed to discuss both the trees on city property and the appeal?
And the arborist has a separate report for the
Yes.
street trees, so she got to deliver
Well,
that
and
now.
then public comment-wise, the one public comment I know of encompassed both.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
So I'll put that on the record now, just so it's there. There is one email that was received from Steve Cook. He resides at 807 Bayard. Our home is right across the street from 127 Rodney, where the homeowner is proposing to remove 3 Zelkova trees. I'm not going to read this all into the record because you have it, but the beginning of the 3rd paragraph says, "I strongly urge the commission to reject the appeal and to refuse to allow the removal of any of these 3 Zelkovas." So there's one written submission that's in opposition.
All right. The following is the report of the city arborist with regard to the above referenced request that is to be heard before the commission on Monday, November 28th, 2022. The applicant has submitted a request to remove 2 16-inch diameter Zelkova trees in good condition from the city right-of-way adjacent to 127 Rodney Street. Zelkovas are considered desirable street trees and are planted throughout our city streets. They are valued for their vase-shaped canopy and tolerance to stressful urban growing conditions. In instances where healthy, desirable trees have lifted or damaged the sidewalk, tree retention is preferred by the city. Most lifts that make a sidewalk non-ADA compliant can be ground out. If the lift is too high or the sidewalk is too damaged, then the slab is replaced. If the commission authorizes these trees for removal, there is space to replace them with new trees in similar locations on both Rodney Street and Bayard Avenue. New street trees are required to be a species permitted by the city in a minimum of 1.5 inches caliper and 8 feet tall at planting. As per city code, Parks and Shade Tree Commission has authority to permit the removal of street trees. 253.12 Maintenance C. No person shall plant, spray, preserve, prune, remove, cut above ground, or otherwise disturb any tree on any street or municipal-owned property without first receiving permission from the Parks and Shade Tree Commission. Any tree removed from municipal-owned property must be replaced unless otherwise authorized by the Parks and Shade Tree Commission.
Are there any questions for the arborist? No.
Wait,
See if the applicant wants to.
yeah, those would be the new ones.
So, I have a question for the arborist. Would the redbud provide over time the same amount of shade as the Zelkova, or is there a better choice?
You mean the crabapple?
I mean, the crabapple.
No, it's a smaller species, but depending on which redbud they choose, if it's not the narrow one.
I meant
Oh,
the crabapple.
crabapple. No, they won't be as wide as the Zelkova probably, but it's a smaller tree, which is appropriate. It would be that would be a reasonable replacement.
Okay.
And it looks like, correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like you all are proposing 2 for each one?
Yes, we're proposing to replace the 2 city trees with 4 crab apples. The crab apples would be more appropriate in this location because there'll be less conflict with the power lines above, which is one of the issues that is present now. And there is a photo of that in the packet as well. So the crab apples will be less likely to have a canopy that exceeds a height of 20 feet. Then in high storms and high winds, the Zelkovas are much taller than that. They're much more likely to break a branch off and damage the power line. So we've suggested a species that is smaller and less likely to cause issues with the power lines and also less likely to lift the sidewalk because they're a smaller species.
I don't understand this drawing. Up here it says 4 prairie rose crabapple, but there's only 2 trees. And
There's
then
4
down here
total?
it says 1 eastern redbud, and there's 2 trees down
It's
here.
pointing to the corner.
This one.
Yeah.
They're also talking about the ones in the, on the side of the house.
So there's 2 on Baird and 2 on Rodney. There's 1 Zelkova to be replaced on Baird and 1 to be replaced on Rodney. So there's 4 trees total, 2 on each street.
No, I didn't see.
This is what happens when we don't
Okay, I
have them in
got it.
advance to study.
One label per symbol.
I did not see that little arrow, I'm sorry. But my question about it is that you're moving it to a place that doesn't provide shade to the sidewalks. I think that's probably what all of us are concerned about.
The
That's what I'm
crabapples will
concerned about.
provide shade to the sidewalks, just not as much shade as a Zelkova would. But it also won't cause the damage to the sidewalks that a Zelkova would as well.
So I have another question in terms of public safety. What kind of drop will you have from that tree in the off-season? The apples and all that stuff?
The city requires a fruitless crabapple, so this is a cultivar that is fruitless.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So is there anything else the applicant wants to put on about the street trees, put on the record? Yeah, are you okay with?
Yes.
what we have?
Want to make sure that you've cleared up whatever
Yeah.
whatever you
I
did
didn't
not
get get the numbers. It's very, the drawing's a little confusing if you're not.
So there's
used to
there's
landscape
one
drawings.
Zelkova on Baird, and there's
Don't just, if you would, first, I think what would be helpful is we can get IT in here. We can put this on the screen. And I think if we could have the landscaper walk through tree by tree, whether it's existing, whether it's proposed, and just so, because you all should have a good understanding of what's being proposed, I think. But we need our IT guy to come back if he's listening.
while we're waiting for that,
Sure.
in the
Moms.
in the 20
Sorry about that. Can we put this on the?
There we go. Good idea, Glenn.
All right, so that'll zoom in, and then if you will come up and just talk through this.
Pointer or anything?
It's going to be your finger. You can use this handy-dandy pencil.
Very fancy.
All right. So there's only going to be 2 existing trees remaining on the property. We have the 1 Zelkova that's by the driveway that says existing to remain. And then this is also an existing tree. So we have 2 trees remaining on the property.
Question, what
Yes.
kind of tree is that, a second existing tree?
It wasn't specified. It just said deciduous to remain.
It's a pair.
So the Zelkova that we're proposing to remove in the appeal is currently located in this general vicinity, right by this sidewalk area. And the trees that we are proposing to replace that with are these 8 tulip poplars, this dogwood, and this redbud. Then the street trees that we are proposing to remove and replace are actually located in very close proximity. The Zelkova that is on city property is in this approximate location, so it's between the tree on the driveway and the Zelkova that's by the sidewalk. And then the tree on Baird that we're proposing to remove is right in front of the proposed front walkway. So the proposed trees, the proposed crab apples are in the almost exact same location
as the current city street trees.
Could you just point out more, is it the existing Zelkova that you want to take out on Bayard, is that right in front of the walkway?
Yes, it's currently right about here.
Okay.
And if Josh, if you have the survey, I can show them what the existing trees are.
I included a copy of the
You
proposed
probably
in
have
mine.
that in the packet, but I can
Yeah.
point them out on here.
If you've got your paper copy, you're able to set it up there, Liz, thank you.
Yeah, the copy I have didn't survey the street trees. I had X's where approximately I put them, but sure.
Thanks.
Thank you. May need to zoom in on that a little bit more.
Spin it around because I put it upside down.
Okay, that's a little bit better. So you can see on here, this is the proposed location of, oh, here's the one with the street trees, okay. Okay, so we have the Zelkova on the private property, which is currently located here. And then this is the proposed Zelkova to be removed on the Rodney Street, and this is the one on Bayard. So you can see that all three of these Zelkova are very close together. This doesn't accurately depict the canopy size of the two trees on the property, but all the canopies are intermingled, and they're also very much intertwined with the power lines above on Rodney. Does anybody want to see the landscape plan again?
If you would, and then you can show how the replacement trees are gonna be in approximately the same location as the ones that are being. I'm sorry, I didn't say that for the microphone. The replacement trees would be in about the same location as the ones that were removed.
So again, here's the two proposed crab apples on Rodney and the two proposed crab apples on Bayard, and very similar locations. Now these two on Rodney also kind of take the place of the one that's on private property that is currently here. So that's why we kind of have to take this placement into consideration, because I have proposed alternate locations for the trees for that remediation, because I had proposed these for the street trees.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone have any more questions?
So the safety issue has been raised a few times since I'm the property owner and doing yard work and stuff in the yard. It's been mostly children, but there have been some trips and falls on the sidewalks in front of our house. It's nothing that I had to ever call any kind of, ambulance or anything like that for. Any tripping that I saw from adults, nobody actually ever fell down to the ground, but kids, when they've been, with their parents and walking on the sidewalk and stuff, there's been any number of those. We sort of lost track of it after a while. But, so it is an issue. I don't have any expectation that if we put new sidewalks in, since as someone pointed out, the old ones were taken out, I believe in a very short period of time, the sidewalks will be in exactly the same condition that they are now. So those kind of safety issues, as I think Rebecca said, would undoubtedly continue if we go ahead and leave them in there.
Let me speak to that just for a moment, because that raises a point, a distinction between street trees and the private property trees. So recall, for private property trees, the code sets out 7 reasons that you as a commission can authorize the removal of the tree. The reason they selected on the application was that the tree is located where it creates or will create a material safety or health hazard or nuisance that is not innate to or commonly associated with trees in general. As for the street trees are city-owned, so it's completely discretionary, your decision. One of those 7 items does not have to be complied with exactly. Sometimes we look to them, you as a commission have looked to them as reasons maybe to remove street trees or not remove street trees, but it's a discretionary act on your part. You don't have to find those reasons, but with the private property tree, you do have to find one of those reasons exist. So I thought that'd be appropriate time to discuss it, since he just put on the record some additional information about safety hazards.
Katie, you've been remarkably quiet. Would you like to comment?
I'd like to hear what other folks have to say about their, their thoughts on this. I mean, I have some thoughts, but I'd like to hear more about what you all are thinking.
Carolyn, do you have any thoughts?
You mean overall?
Well, we've combined the two things, so.
Right, okay. So my initial thought as I'm looking at this, and I walk by this every day. My initial thought is that the sidewalk along, clearly the sidewalk along Rodney is in much worse shape. I mean, it's not existent at this point, and I think a lot of that, I guess a lot of the damage occurred with the construction. But, so I'm actually leaning towards saying take both down along Rodney, but I'm leaning towards saying leave the one along Bayard, because that sidewalk is, yes, it's raised up, but I think it could easily be, I don't know what the right term is, shaved down, ground down, whatever that term is. That one's not as bad, although I could get behind the whole plan. I like the plan. I think there's a lot of canopy being replaced, especially with, with what's proposed. I don't want to see I don't want to see a new home immediately damaged by trees. And I think the one along Bayard is sitting far enough away that it's not going to necessarily damage the house itself. I think along Rodney, the one on private property, I think is going to damage those steps pretty quickly. That's my initial thought.
Thank you. How about you, Renee? Do you have any comments?
First of all, thank you for plan. It was very helpful. And I'm in agreement with being concerned about the existing Zelkova on private property, so close to the steps, that it's going to uproot the steps. But on the other hand, but on the other hand, we knew this. You knew the steps were going to be there. So I'm probably leaning toward thinking that the one on private property should be taken down.
Okay, thank you. I have to say that my biggest concern is that tree was there. You may have thought you had some kind of approval ahead of time, but you did not have paperwork from the city saying that was approved, and you went ahead with your plan. And I don't know if there's some way to go back to the city and say, this isn't working out, what can we do? But none of that is in the record. If you did try to do that, I'm very sympathetic to the plan. I can see you've put a lot of effort into it, and I went to the site. I understand the issue, but it's very hard for me to say, oh, well, we said we'd try and it didn't work out, so we went ahead with our plan and built our house the way we wanted to anyway, because then anyone could come back and and just not follow the building plan. You had a building plan that was approved, and you didn't follow it. Because this tree, it says right on the thing that Liz issued, that that tree was to remain. And so it's hard for me to say, I mean, we have a process that I think needs to be followed, and I regret that you don't get this, if I prevail, you won't get this plan, which I agree is a good plan, but I still have to be convinced that, I just can't see a path forward where we approve not following the approved business plan. I just really, I guess that's our job, is to take into consideration all the things that you've done to try to mitigate, but that's where I am at this point. I just need to, I'm not comfortable going forward in contradiction to the plan that was approved.
And I have to agree with what Laura is saying. I think that it would set a very bad precedent to have us approve something that just shows that, you know, you go ahead and you have a plan, you have what Liz has said, and then you just go ahead and it from the material that we received in our initial packet, it appeared as if you just went right ahead and did what you wanted without taking into consideration what Liz had to say. And I like Laura, I would feel bad if you did not get to do what you're proposing, because it looks beautiful. And I think it's a very nice plan. But I just think that it would set a very bad example. And other people would be able to say, well, they got away with it. And, you know, why?
Each case is separate, so similar to a Board of Adjustment, each case that comes before you, every property, the Latin is like sui generis or something, every property is different, so and none are the same, so you can't set precedent with one case here as to the next case that's going to come before you. Now, people will come in and say, you let them do it, you should let me do it, but it's not legal precedent, so nothing you do today is going to bind you to do something similar in the future.
So then, you're saying that the next person can come in and try to do the same thing, and we can say no, even if we say yes to this?
Yes. Because when you say try to do the same thing, it's never the same thing. There's always different things about the next property.
Richard?
I do understand your comments. I do believe it's not characterized correctly. We did try extremely hard to work to save, to move things around and to save the tree. I would assume that, obviously, you're saying that it looks like we didn't do that, but we did do it. I think until we started digging, it was really impossible to know how high the roots were and how it was just literally going to be impossible to work around them. We were hopeful that we could, but we just, now we can see clearly due to the height of the roots. Like if you go, most of you have been there recently, the height that you see of the top of the roots there now of that tree on our property is probably 8 to 12 inches higher than finished grade. So it's less to do with the plan location and more to do with the elevation of it. And the lot is so small and the root ball extends to such a wide diameter around it that, you know, there was no challenge that we could meet to relocate things to make that, and again, we did not know the extent, the full extent of how bad it was going to be until after we did start digging. So we did try hard, but I guess that's the comment that I would make.
I just want to say, I believe you that, and I can see from all the extra work you've done to have the plan made, that you aren't just willy-nilly taking out trees because you don't like them. So I do appreciate that, and that's what makes these decisions really hard. Because I think we have an excellent city arborist, and I really try to uphold her decisions to the extent I think is reasonable. Would any,
Let me just advise it for a moment on that, because it's important that this body remembers there's two parties here, and it's their burden of persuasion, the applicant's burden of persuasion to overcome the arborist's decision. But your job is to weigh the evidence that comes in and make a decision. So there shouldn't be a deference to the city arborist. There should be a weighing of the evidence. If the evidence that comes in from the applicant outbalances or persuades you to overturn the arborist, then you should do that. So it's a weighing of the evidence. You're right that you should defer to the arborist because it's their burden of persuasion to overcome her decision. But once the scales tip, then the deference is gone. If that makes sense. And at this point, Chair, I think everything has probably come in that's going to come in, so you should close the record, and you'll take nothing else from the public, and you all should deliberate and make a decision.
okay.
Can I ask a question first? Are we going to, just to clarify, is it going to be one motion for both cases or two separate motions?
I would advise that since there's two on the agenda, you should take two motions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
What happens if we tie?
The appeal is denied if you tie. There has to be a majority of you that vote to grant the appeal.
Okay, I would like to, if there's no further comment, I'd like to close the record. Hearing none, the record will be considered closed.
And now it's for the commission to deliberate, and if somebody wants to make a motion, they can when they're ready.
Do you want to discuss it any further? Do any of you have anything further you want to? Would anyone like to make a motion? And it would be helpful if the motion is to approve the appeal, and then even if you make the motion to approve, you can still vote no. The motion is kind of separate from the vote to approve or deny, so.
So we're making will the motion be for the
appeal.
So let's make the appeal first, which is
The
this,
tree on their property.
right? So when the chair says you should make the motion in the affirmative, so it would be a motion to approve the appeal, which is to approve the removal of the tree. But again, you don't have to vote the way if you're the maker of the motion, you don't have to vote in favor of your motion. But it's easier to say yes or no when the motion is made in the affirmative, because yes is yes to the applicant, no is no to the applicant.
Katie, in your opinion, is that Zelkova tree that's so close to their property? I mean, I think they're kind of arguing that the three Zelkova trees are already interfering with each other. Do you think that's a factor in this? Like if they took out that middle one and put in smaller ones, would the remaining ones? Of course, there is much further back from the sidewalk, so it doesn't offer the same canopy.
I do agree that when there are trees that, that close together, they all compete with each other. So taking out one or more of them would allow the remaining to do better. to have more sunlight and more resources to thrive. That's, yes, I do agree with that. And on that note, I make a motion to approve the tree removal on private property.
Do you want to give a reason?
I wouldn't do that yet, because you're going to give reasons anyways when you're
Oh, okay.
voting, so see if you get a second
Right,
on the
okay.
motion.
Do I have a second?
I second that motion.
Now you can deliberate, if there's more deliberations to be had, you can deliberate, or if you're ready to go to a vote, you can go to a vote.
Renee, did you have any comments? No, I'm good. Okay.
I can start. I approve that motion. I do believe you can encounter new things when you dig, and I believe you can, you can have the best intentions, but not be able to, be successful in doing everything. And like I said, I believe you can encounter new things when you dig. And I think that that particular tree is going to be, maybe competing with the house and the other canopies that are there. It's not going to do as well. And there has to have been roots that were damaged in the digging process, in addition to learning new things as you dug. So I approve that.
The pile.
Yes.
Katie?
I'm make a motion to, or not make a motion, but I would, in light of seeing the plan and knowing that we don't set precedent, each case is separate, then I would go ahead and allow for the tree on private property to be removed so that they could do at least the plan on their own property as we see it. So that would.
And I'm in favor of removing that tree for a number of reasons. The most is I feel like the best intentions were put forward, but you can't predict the future. And when they got into the digging and they saw what was there, I think it was unavoidable. And I think that removing the tree is the best path going forward.
Okay. I think I'll make it unanimous, and I really do appreciate you bringing us so much information today, because it really did, I think it tipped all of our opinions from negative to positive. So with that, the appeal to you, this committee agrees that you may remove the tree on private property.
Well, let me put the caveat in that. They'll have to officially submit, I'll email them, but they'll have to officially submit a planting plan for approval for the tree on private property.
And it better be followed.
But just to make it clear, they don't have to give me the plan that you guys saw either.
Okay.
So we've been asked by those who are listening to be careful to speak loudly and into the microphones. I guess they're having trouble hearing at other locations. So moving on then, Madam Chair.
Okay, do I have a motion as regarding the street trees? That's the tree, the existing Zelkovia on Rodney, and there's an existing Zelkovia on Bayard.
Do we do them together, or
Oh, I need a motion.
Do them
together?
I would think we should do them together.
Okay.
Well, the motion could be to approve one and not the other.
Oh, well, I guess that's true.
Sure.
You-
Anybody's able to make whatever motion they want as to one tree, both trees, and it doesn't have to be both are removed or both are remain. Mhm.
then shouldn't the motion include whether or not they're requiring replanting and how many and where as well? For the street trees?
Yes, remind me,
don't-
Liz, is there a code requirement that street, removal of street trees require mitigation?
The only thing it
does, right?
says is it has to be replaced unless otherwise authorized by the commission.
Oh, yeah, we can
Okay.
give them permission not to.
Not to replace or require replacements. And then typically, like, the species and spacing are up to the approval of the city and size.
But am I right that if they were to grant the removal of the street trees, the plan that's been proposed today, even though it's not on it's not on city property, it would outweigh the required replacement, or we don't know for sure?
Well, yeah, it would only be tree for tree replacement. It says any tree removed must be replaced unless otherwise authorized. So it would exceed it.
Hang on, these replacement trees would be on their property?
No.
No, as shown.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I know. Why doesn't somebody make a motion and then we can go from there? Which,
I know you've cut off comments, but you did ask her a question.
He's right. We should
you can have,
allow it.
you can respond.
All right. What I wanted to say is, it was brought up that the tree on Baird seemed to not be as bad, the street tree I'm talking about, not as bad as the tree on Rodney. I would disagree with that. I think that the damage that you probably saw, because this house has been under construction for so long, a lot of the damage to the sidewalk on Rodney was caused by construction. Before construction started, I would characterize the damage to the sidewalk actually on Baird probably even a little more severe than the damage to the sidewalk from the tree on Rodney. The lift is much higher. It was the one that's in your packet that I handed out, and I did stick a tape measure on it and saw the top of that sidewalk probably 8 to 12 inches higher than what would be the top of the sidewalk as characterized by the top of the curb. So really, the damage from the trees to the sidewalks on both Baird and Rodney is, I would say, very equal.
Question of Liz. Liz, do you find that the proposed 2 trees in each case would be an acceptable replacement
In terms of,
caliper and just long-term?
well, they would only be required to replace a tree per tree removed. And then the minimum caliper is in the code at 1.5 inches for a street tree.
So, but can the commission require?
Yeah, we can make him do more. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Okay, so I will make a motion that we approve the removal of the street tree along Bayard and the street tree along Rodney.
Is there a second?
Can we add to that motion?
Let's see if you get a second first, and then you can make an amendment to the motion if you have something you'd like to do.
I second the motion.
So now there's a second. There's a motion on the table. If you'd like to amend the motion, you can make a motion to change it, or we can talk through it first and then.
Can I make a motion to amend it to require 2 trees rather than a tree per tree? So I'd like to amend that motion, make a motion to amend that motion to require that 2 trees are planted as opposed to 1.
So 2 trees, so 4 trees total.
Yes.
4 trees total,
As proposed.
as proposed. So now you can ask if there's a second for that
Is there a
amendment.
second for the amendment?
I'll second that.
Okay, so first you should vote on the amendment to see if the motion gets amended. So you're not voting on the entirety of it. You're only voting to see if the motion should include the requirement that 4 trees, 4 mitigation trees be planted. That's all you're voting on. Does that make
Okay,
sense?
yes.
And then you'll take a vote on overall whether to approve that motion or not, the full motion.
Okay, we're voting on the amendment to the motion, and the amendment would require 4 trees as opposed to what is usually just 1 tree for each tree removed. Would you like to vote on?
And they are as proposed, so they would be, there would be 4 trees well, 2 trees per 1 tree taken down, and they would be 2 to 2.5 inch caliper trees, not just 1.5 inch caliper trees. Is that what? Okay.
That's what's on the proposal, correct?
Okay. All right. Carolyn, did you want to vote?
Yeah,
are you ready?
I agree with that. I'll vote yes.
Agree. You vote yes?
Yes.
I vote yes.
I think I'm voting no, but the motion carry,
but this is
oh, no,
this
I
is
vote
only
yes. I
yeah,
vote yes on the
on the
amendment.
Right.
Okay.
So now you have a
Now we have
motion
to
on
go
the
back
table.
to the motion to remove the 2 street trees and replace them with 4 crabapple trees as provided on the plan before us. And you want to discuss that? Carolyn, do you want to vote?
I'd like to hear from others.
Renee, do you have a vote?
So it's difficult not knowing, I mean, I've seen the sidewalk on Baird, and it's difficult to know what existed before
On Rodney.
on Rodney. But,
Speaking of the thing.
but I'd like to hear what everyone else thinks.
Okay, we're very decisive on this
We're getting
committee,
down to
as you
very
can
little-
see.
Right.
Katie, do you have a comment?
Yes, I do. Well, I feel as if the 2 trees, the 2 street trees should remain. And that's because the sidewalks can be ground down, and they are relatively healthy trees, and at the time of their demise, then the attractive planting can be, the planting plan can proceed. But I do feel that they should remain for now.
The chair agrees.
I agree with the tree along Rodney, or along by Bayard. I would leave that one. I would authorize the removal of the one along Rodney.
That would be my thought as well.
So you're somewhat at a 2-2 based upon the reading of the tea leaves. So there's an opportunity still to amend the motion. Again, should somebody want to make a motion to amend it such that one of the trees is removed and the other one remains.
I would just like to say that street trees are the property of everyone in Rehoboth, and those trees are in good shape. They're they're a problem to the property owner, but there are lots of trees in Rehoboth that require maintenance, as you know, because you spend a lot of money maintaining it. But I just think it's important that there has to be a very clear pressing need to remove a nice, mature street tree. And like Katie said, when they get old enough and really aren't doing well anymore, then there's time to replace them then. I don't think they need to be replaced this year.
I don't disagree with you. I will change my vote. You're right, the street trees are the property of Rehoboth and all the residents, and they are in good shape. And we've seen along many sidewalks, how they can be ground down. So I will change my vote to deny that those be taken down.
And listening to everyone's.
So are you actually voting at this point, or are you still deliberating?
I think we're deliberating because I
thought
always
so.
go last.
Yeah.
So listening to everyone and rethinking everything, I am in agreement that for now, the trees should remain.
Okay, are we ready to vote on the amendment that,
No, this is on the.
I mean, on the motion before us to remove, the motion is,
The motion was made in the affirmative, so that there was, a yes vote would allow for the 2 street trees to come down and the 4 replacement trees to be
Okay.
installed. A no vote would deny the appeal and the street trees would remain.
Carolyn?
I vote yes, that we would not allow, or no.
You vote
I
no.
vote no, that we would not allow the street trees to come down.
I'm voting no, not to allow the street, I do not want the street trees to, I'm voting no to have the street trees remain.
I vote no, and I feel the street trees should remain.
And the chair agrees. We are unanimous that the street trees should remain. Thank you, everyone. That was a hard one, and I think we came to a good compromise. And I do appreciate the homeowner appearing before us, and because it really does make a difference to the committee.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. I guess we're back to Jeff.
And thank you for the extra information.
And for the extra effort to provide, have a plan, because that wasn't required for the hearing, but it's very helpful.
And swayed us.
Wait, where did my agenda go? The agenda's back here. Okay, case number 2. This has been requested by Jeff Meredith of Sussex Tree on behalf of William and Suzanne Moran, owners of the property located at 36 Pennsylvania Avenue. Do I have to read all this? Okay,
Case number 2 at,
this is the yellow pine.
this is case number 2, lives at 36 Pennsylvania Avenue, if you will read your report.
The following is a report of the city arborist with regard to the above referenced request is to be heard before the commission on Monday, November 28th, 2022. The applicant has submitted a request to remove one 8-inch diameter pine street tree in good condition. The tree is located along an unimproved right-of-way adjacent to 36 Pennsylvania Avenue. The applicant is installing a required driveway and curb cut related to improvements on the property. If the commission were to permit removal of this tree, there is space for a replacement tree in the right-of-way near the current construction entrance. Any replacement tree must be a species approved by the city in a minimum size of 1.5-inch caliber and 8 feet tall at planting. As per City Code, Parks and Shade Tree Commission has the authority to permit the removal of street trees. 253.12 Maintenance C. No person shall plant, spray, preserve, prune, remove, cut above ground, or otherwise disturb any tree on any street or municipal-owned property without first receiving permission from the Parks and Shade Tree Commission. Any tree removed from municipal-owned property must be replaced unless otherwise authorized by the Parks and Shade Tree Commission.
Good morning. I'm Jeff Meredith, Sussex Tree. In regards to this tree on Pennsylvania Avenue, 36 Pennsylvania Avenue, the tree's in the way of a new parking drive. It's underneath the power lines. So sooner or later, the power company's going to cut the top out of it where it is anyway, and it'll probably die. So that is the reason they actually need the parking space for the property. And that's all I have to say, basically. I'm sure you all went and looked at the tree. So thank you.
Is there anyone else that represents the property owner who wishes to speak?
Good morning. I'm Mike McDowell. I'm the project manager for the job. The proposed driveway shown in the plans, do you guys have the site plans from the city?
Yes.
Okay. As you can see, the driveway or the parking strips, that pine is marked to be removed. It's needed to be removed because of the proposed parking strips per the city's plan or approved plan. And I guess that's about it. I really don't know how we could accommodate the parking strips with the tree at its current location.
I have a question.
Sure.
This is a very large property, and there's obviously lots of room to put these parking strips. Have you considered any other configuration, like a narrower entranceway and then getting wider further up?
That's what Matt, I think Matt met with us at the job site, and that was what the city would allow, the strips as they are shown on the survey.
I think, I was going to mention, I think the reason for that, and if we had the building official here, maybe he's listening, he'll pop in, but you can't stack more than two,
Yes.
I think. So
Yes.
More than,
Oh,
or you
like
can't.
for fire or something?
I think are there 4 required off-street parking spaces here, or just 2?
Yes.
Well, there's 4 required because there's an accessory dwelling, but I do remember seeing plans that at one point had all 4 parking spaces stacked, but I think we can all agree that that's not, who wants to be the 4th car in that scenario? Like 2 is one thing, but I you know, that changed throughout, and I don't think it's an unreasonable change. My guess, and this is why it didn't make it in the report, but my guess is the original owner, I'm not sure if that's the same one, planted all those trees, because if you look, they're all in a row, and the city did not plant those. And I think, as Jeff mentioned, or alluded to, that eventually if it continues to grow, pine is a bad choice for there. There was actually a blue spruce where their construction entrance is now, and it was removed. The power company topped it. It died, and then the power company had to remove it. So it would probably eventually suffer the same fate.
Okay, thank you. That clears up.
Okay.
My one question was, you know, like, I think it's always incumbent on a builder to make every effort to preserve the trees, but if that effort has been made and there isn't an alternative, that kind of colors my decision.
Agreed. Agreed.
I have a question for you, and this is not necessarily pertaining to just your property, but you're not allowed to stack 4 cars in a driveway any longer?
When Matt and I met at the project, and I could be quoting him wrong, but he gave me I mean, that's why we came up with the 2 strips, that we were not allowed to do 4 cars deep with the longer strips, because that was.
Oh, there he is, good.
Would the building
Good.
official like to comment
Yeah,
on
'cause
this issue?
The building official
Yeah,
needs
tell
to
us.
clear this situation up.
Tell us.
Good morning. There is no code fire-related as to the stacking of vehicles. The City of Rehoboth Beach requires 2 parking spaces measured 9 by 18 for every dwelling unit that is located on the property. So if you have a main dwelling, obviously you need 2 parking spaces. If you have additional accessory use dwellings, you need 2 additional parking spaces for each one of those dwellings. So I'm assuming, without seeing any plans currently, that we need 4 spaces here, and it is up to the applicant/owner to provide those 4 spaces or request a variance to go against that requirement.
But you are still allowed to put, I mean, if say there is a garage all the way in the back of the property, are you allowed to, have a driveway that is long enough to get to your garage and consider those parking spaces, as long as they're 9 by 18, those are considered
The,
spaces.
Yes.
the plan that's before them, Matt,
Why don't we put the plan up like we did the other
I
one?
don't have it in paper form. Do you have it?
Yeah, right.
Katie, if you think about my house, I had to have 4, and they're all in a row.
Right, that's what I was
Yeah,
thinking,
yeah, they're all in a row.
and I've done that before properties, and that's why I'm wondering, I'm like, oh.
Yes, yes.
So,
Thank you.
Matt, as you can see, there's, the way it's configured now, on the right-hand side of the screen, there's a wider strip in the middle, and then 2 strips on either side of that, so that you can, so it's basically 2 parking lanes paralleling each other. So you could put 2 on one side and 2 on the other side, is my presumption.
Yeah, albeit tight for door opening, it is still, it still is permissible as long as your widest curb cut is no more than 23 feet, including 1'6" flares on each side. I would, go ahead.
The secondary question, part of that question is, could they remove one of those strips and have just 2 strips that go all the way back and have 4 cars stacked? Would that be?
They certainly could. Of course, we'd be looking at the measurement of 18 times 4, so we're looking at 72 feet. Also, I would question, I do see another structure there. If there is a parking spot located within that structure, they could certainly use that as one of the required parking spaces. So if it is a garage-type accessory dwelling, like a garage apartment that has a garage space, that can certainly, one of those spaces can certainly be used as a parking space, as long as it meets the minimum requirements. And we look for the 2 other qualifying factors, three qualifying factors. Is it the size of a normal parking space? Can you get to it, because you're not allowed to drive over grass in the city of Rehoboth? And can you get that vehicle actually into that parking space? So a 6-foot man door obviously doesn't work. And then a hard surface, according to the city of Rehoboth, could be clamshells, stone, etc.
Okay, I'm taking from that that there are alternatives to this plan. And this is not the only plan that would be acceptable to the city.
I think one thing to consider when you're looking at the plan, though, Laura, is the only real spot that they would be able to do that is basically, you'd have to take out that tree anyway. Because the only spot where there might be 72 feet would be going all the way back to the accessory structure on the plan, as opposed to, I mean, there's not any other place for them to have it, for there to be a narrower.
They right now have 2 beside each other, so if they took the one off, there's sufficient space on where that tree is to go all the way back, because it's the,
That's correct.
yeah, it's this tree.
But isn't the tree that they are proposing to remove, that's not on that plan?
No, that's going to remain, that tree.
No.
No.
That, it's off of that,
No.
it's not showing at all, because that's within the property line.
Oh,
The other dot.
Oh, that little dot, so if
that
you
little
did,
dot.
A single driveway wouldn't necessitate its
dot right
removal.
there.
the single driveway would not necessitate
Yes.
its removal. Okay.
Right.
I did not see the little dot there. The whole time.
If I may, there are definitely other design options that the site could hold. I'm not their designer, so, but I definitely see, other circumstances where they could address their parking issues by different means.
If there's 72, is there 72 feet?
Does the city
I have a question. Does the city require those 4 spaces, or can they apply for a variance for 2?
They certainly can go for a variance, but we look at it, as I described before, every dwelling unit that is located on that lot is required to have 2 spaces.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And correct me if I'm wrong, they cannot have 2 separate driveways. Like, they would have to be side by side. They can't have 2 that are separated by land.
Correct. The minimum curb cut for the city of Rehoboth is 13 feet. It would be 10 feet at the sidewalk, 1'6" and 1'6" flares for a total of 13 feet. And then the maximum would be 23 feet, 20 feet wide, and 1'3" and 1'3", excuse me, 1'6" and 1'6" flares for a total of 23 feet. Would be the absolute maximum curb cut allowable in the city.
Okay, does anyone else have comment?
F. Meredith, Sussex tree. One way or the other, this tree will be dead in about 4 years when the power company comes back again. I know you got the saw where it was. That is an evergreen. If you cut the top out of that tree, it'll be dead. So you've got to consider that in this motion. So you're trying to save a tree that will be dead in 4 years.
Thank you. Liz, did you want to make any comment to that?
I think this comes down to what is worth retaining and what's not. Yes, they could make an adjustment to retain that tree. Is it worth it for an 8-inch diameter pine that is eventually going to suffer that fate of being topped because it's an inappropriate species? I think now would be an opportune time to allow its removal, require an appropriate replacement, and allow a better parking situation for the property owners as well. So it's kind of everybody gets what they want. You know, if the tree was 20 inches, we'd be having a different conversation. But I think trading an 8-inch pine for a 2-inch tree is reasonable.
So shall I make a motion?
Yes. Wait, does anyone else have any comment, or does anyone on the board have questions?
Can we require the replacement within the motion?
Yes.
Yeah. I think we can let Matt leave too. As
Thanks,
much
guys.
fun as it's been.
Have a great day.
Thanks, bye.
Guest appearance.
Very enlightening, Matt, thank you.
Then I make a motion to allow the 8-inch pine to be removed and replaced with appropriate species that are with an appropriate species that is in a more desirable location.
And Liz, your requirement is 1.5-inch caliper and 8-inch tall?
Yeah, that's what the code requires.
Or 8 feet tall, I'm sorry.
8 inches. Mow right over it.
We could require more than what's the minimum. We can require 3 trees if we want, right?
Yeah, I think you can require whatever size.
Then I'd like to require, well, I think that for this tree, I think just one more tree is just replacing it with a better species in a better location is adequate.
Anyone want to say?
I'll second that motion.
Do we have any discussion? Are we ready to vote? Okay, let's take a vote.
I vote yes.
I vote yes.
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries, and that tree may come down. Okay, let's move on to case number 3.
Before you go there, Chair, might I just say that, so when you're voting, you all gave good reasons when you deliberated, but typically when we vote, it's good to have, like, to actually restate your reasons or say for the reasons that I previously stated, just so it's clear if a reviewing court looks
I'll
at it,
send you-
or
I'll
they
send
know
you
why
an
you
email.
voted the way you
Or
voted.
send Jeff an email and he can pass it along.
Okay, case number 3 has all, okay. Let's hear from the city arborist.
All right. The following is the report of the city arborist with regard to the above reference request that is heard before the commission on Monday, November 28th, 2022. The applicant has submitted a request to remove 2 street trees adjacent to 22 Pennsylvania Avenue. The trees are a 13-inch diameter honey locust and an 8-inch diameter black locust. Honey locusts are considered desirable street trees and are planted along Rehoboth Avenue. Black locusts, conversely, are not preferred because they can develop thorny branches. Both trees are in fair condition due to utility pruning. Despite its age, the sidewalk is in relatively good conditions with a couple of minor lifts that have been ground for ADA compliance. At this time, the sidewalk is compliant in terms of the city's codes. As of the date on this report, the city has not received a permit application to replace or repair the sidewalk. If the requested removal is due to the sidewalk condition, this is typically a necessity. In addition, if the commission were to permit the tree removals, the applicant would have to address the structural coverage and non-compliant plantings placed in the right-of-way before removal could be permitted. There is space for any replacement trees to be replanted. New trees must be a species approved by the city and be a minimum of 1.5-inch caliber and 8 feet tall at planting. As per city code, Parks and Shade Tree Commission has the authority to permit the removal of street trees. 253.12 Maintenance C. No person shall plant, spray, preserve, prune, remove, cut above ground, or otherwise disturb any tree on any street or municipal-owned property without first receiving permission from the Parks and Shade Tree Commission. Any tree removed from municipal-owned property must be replaced unless otherwise authorized by the Parks and Shade Tree Commission.
Jeff?
Jeff Meredith, certified arborist. In regards to 22 Pennsylvania Avenue, you have a black locust, which I've got it as 13-inch black locust and 9-inch shade master locust. As you can see, if you went and looked at them, I'm sure you did, they're underneath the power lines. And they've been cut several times. The black locust has included bark at the base. In other words, it's a deep, deep V, which one day it's going to let go. I mean, it's just, the only reason it's not let go yet is because it keeps getting trimmed every time Aspen visits the town. So, my opinion, trees, neither one of them are in great shape as far as their looks, and I don't think they do any justice to the town as far as looking as being a good tree, even though they're trees. The homeowner will replace both with a more desirable tree.
Sorry.
Okay, depending on what Liz would like to replace them with. And he is going to fix the sidewalk and the curve and everything that he needs to do there, but he doesn't want to do it now and have the same thing happen again that he's got now. So shade master locust root structure can be a little invasive, but I don't see any root structure currently that is doing that yet. So, but that tree should be twice that size, both of them at this present time, but they're not because they're underneath the power lines. So my recommendation is to remove both of them and plant something more desirable in the same area between the sidewalk and the street. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Jeff.
Any questions for me before I sit down?
I do have a question.
Okay.
Jeff, what would you, if you were going to replace the trees, would you do it under those power lines? And if you did, what trees would you suggest using?
Something smaller, not get as large as that. Crab apple, not one with the balls, one of the new hybrids. Red bud would work there also. There are some, and there's quite a few more that Liz and I could discuss that would go there. But we don't need them to get back. They won't trim the cable lines. They're going to trim the power lines, the power company, but they won't trim the cable lines. They don't worry about fiber optics. They know it's not going to bother them. But once those limbs touch those high power intensity, they rob electric from the lines. That's why they're always cutting them and topping them in the town, the ones that are, in the lines.
What's the height of those power lines?
I'm sorry?
What's the general height of those power lines?
Oh, They're about
And they're
35.
the ones at the very top, right? They're the
The one at the very
highest
top's
ones.
about 35 feet.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So, that's it. Thank you.
Anyone else in the public want to make any comments? Seeing nobody, we may as well.
I want to ask,
discuss
I want to
among
ask
ourselves.
Liz a question.
Okay.
That area between the sidewalk and the street over there is pretty narrow.
It was at least 3 feet.
I thought it seemed narrower to me, but
Really?
I thought it was a narrower
didn't measure it.
section.
It's less than 3 feet. I was just there this morning.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't measure.
I had a question for Liz as well. How fast-growing is that fruitless crabapple?
I think they're considered medium growers. Yeah. We don't really have any in town, tell you the truth. I can think of a couple of the fruited kind on private property, but they're not they're not a popular tree as of yet.
The red buds are, though.
Redbuds are really popular. I mean, we're in the ocean block here though, so it requires a little bit extra thought to find trees that'll survive.
Is there a tree that you would find more appropriate than that?
Then what, a red?
Then
the-
what's there?
Than the crabapple?
Or,
Wh- Or what's there?
I think you can look at it this way, like the trees that are there, they're not really hurting anything. They haven't damaged the sidewalk, but they're not anything really exceptional either. So it's kind of, it could go either way. I mean, if you took them out, you'd replace them with something smaller because utility lines, they wouldn't be planted in the first place. And a black locust isn't planted, period. If you guys noticed it, if you touch it, you might die. I mean, I've not had any complaints about it or anything like that. Don't get me wrong, but there's a reason they aren't planted.
Yes. Do you want to discuss it at all before we?
You close the record at this point?
Okay, let's close the record at this point, and would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the removal of the 2 street trees
And require any
Requiring.
replacement?
and require replacement in a similar area and with more desirable species in that are the 1.5-inch caliber and 8 feet tall.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Are we ready? Is there any further deliberation that we want to make, or are we ready to vote?
I have a comment. I think, as for what Liz said, the trees aren't really harming anything, and they're not really damaging the sidewalk, and the stated reason for taking them out is because they're damaging the sidewalk, and there's no significant evidence that the sidewalk is being overly damaged, and that it can easily be ground.
it already has.
Okay.
The sidewalk has already been ground.
The sidewalk has already been ground. I would say just to leave them, and then when they meet their demise, then replace with more desirable species.
I'm of the same mind, so I think we can move
Yeah,
to a vote.
I agree with that.
I agree with that as well.
Okay, let's move to a vote then.
Remember, give reasons for your vote, and you can say for the reasons expressed by Katie, I'm voting yes
Right.
or no.
I vote no, that we would deny the request to remove the trees because the sidewalk is not creating any danger currently. It has been ground down, and with the trees still being in fair condition, I don't think there's a need to accelerate their removal.
So I'm going to vote no. I don't want to remove the trees. I don't think it's appropriate at this time. I think the sidewalk is not in such disrepair that it warrants this. And I think it's something that maybe will get revisited by this committee at a later time.
Yeah.
But at this point in time, I don't think it's appropriate, so I'm voting no.
And I'm voting no for the reasons that were stated earlier, that the trees are not in terrible shape and neither is the sidewalk. So, you know, at a later time, you know, our opinions very likely will change if, you know, if there is, you know, cause for that.
And the chair would like to point out something that actually Katie pointed out earlier. Pennsylvania Avenue has very few trees, and it is a hot walk to the beach in the summer, and I think those trees are not in good shape, but it does provide a little bit of canopy, and I think we should preserve that as long as we can. So I'm also voting no to deny the removal of the trees. Did I say that backwards? Okay, so with that, the trees remain. And with that, our business is finished, I think.
Finished is, let me be sure.
That's case number 3. Other business, there's nothing. And so I think, unless anyone has further comment, we are ready to adjourn.
Why do I have
Case
all
number
of this?
4.
Because they gave us the wrong, that's for this afternoon.
Oh.
They gave us the wrong agenda.
Gotcha.
The amended, this that she just brought,
Yes,
Right, this
it's
is
this
for
afternoon.
this is for the Board of
That's this
Adjustment. not
afternoon.
I
me,
was
so-
gonna say, like, who are these people?
This afternoon.
Right.
Oh, my
Where's
gosh.
45 Oak? Like, I
I'm
didn't
okay.
look at that.
Can I adjourn the
You
meeting?
can adjourn as chair, or you can take a motion if you prefer to have a motion to adjourn. But it's your discretion, you can adjourn it.
I'm the chairman, and or chairperson, and I'm going to adjourn this meeting.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.
Thank